how will climate change influence our food choices in the future? It's thought our food industry is responsible for 37% of our global greenhouse gas emissions, from the way we farm and use our land to the waste we create in the process. What if we could nurture nature at the same time as getting our food? Could something as simple as seaweed revolutionize the way we consume and actually help our planet to recover and heal?
Regenerative ocean farming is about moving beyond sustainability. It's about actually how do you farm to bring life back into the ocean. So we're growing food, we're growing shellfish and seaweed, but while also capturing carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus. The idea is to put fishermen like me to work restoring rather than depleting the oceans. My name is Bren Smith, and I'm the founder of GreenWave, and I'm a regenerative ocean farmer, and I'm based here in Long Island Sound. Regenerative ocean farming has been happening for thousands of years in different ways. I think its moment has really come. The question is, what is agriculture under the sea going to look like? I was born and raised in Newfoundland, Canada, and all I ever wanted to be was a fisherman. They were my heroes. So at age 14, I dropped out of school and headed out to sea. And I fished the globe, cod, crab, herring, tuna, you name it, I fished it. And I loved it. But then, while I was fishing in Alaska, the cod stocks crashed in Newfoundland.
There's a very real crisis in the inshore fishery.
The fishery is dying. It's just about dead on its feet along the entire northeast coast.
30,000 people laid off. It was the largest layoff in Canadian history. Boats beached, canneries empty, and just like fishermen walking the streets as hungry ghosts. And that's where I realized, this is a jobs issue. There are not going to be any jobs or food on a dead planet. After the cod stocks crashed, I went into salmon farming. And salmon farming was supposed to be the great solution of feeding the planet and transitioning fishermen into a new type of food production. The problem was, it was industrial food production out at sea. It was, growing salmon, using pesticides, antibiotics, all this sort of stuff. It just wasn't sustainable at the time. So disillusioned, I kept searching, and I ended up here in Long Island Sound. And here there was a long tradition of shellfishing. And so I remade myself as an oysterman. After 7 years of building my business, my farm was destroyed 2 times by hurricanes. Hurricane Irene, Hurricane Sandy came in, wiped out 90% of my crop. That was my second moment working on the ocean where I realized, wow, I'm a canary in a coal mine for a climate crisis that's hit 100 years earlier than we expected. If I wanted to stay at sea and I wanted to continue growing food, I really needed to figure out a new way to start doing ocean farming.
Our ocean covers around 70% of our planet, but only 2% of global food production currently comes from our ocean. GreenWave's innovative approach to farming takes into account issues that have arisen from traditional agriculture to pave the way for a healthier future.
It's really important we don't make the same mistakes that were made on land. You look at land and it's about a couple companies just trying to get as much food as possible from the land at any cost. Instead, we need to go out and breathe life back into the ocean. That's what's exciting, right? The farming system's really pretty simple. Imagine this underwater garden. From the surface, you see a collection of buoys. If you were to look under the waves, you'd see ropes going vertically down to anchor systems. And then horizontally, you just see those anchor lines connected. It's sort of a rope scaffolding system underwater. And from there, we're growing all our crops. Kelp seaweed's growing vertically downwards next to mussels and mussel socks. You got scallops and lantern nets, oyster cages down at the bottom, and then clams down at the mud. The idea is just to grow as many species in the water column as possible.
The kelp is almost ready to produce, and that's what we're looking for.
I've been farming the same patch of ocean for 20 years. But when I started farming seaweed especially, I was just getting laughed off the docks. It was just this ridiculous thing, kind of embarrassing to grow plants underwater. Honestly, when I started, it was kind of boring. But over time, I just grew to love it. I'm actually proud of this. That moment when you start, the seed is just microscopic. And then 4 months later, you come out and you lift a wall of plants out of the ocean. It's a pretty stunning feeling.
It can take 4 months for crops to be ready for market, where they then have uses for the entire food industry.
One of the things I did was to say kelp is the new kale. You know, kale was a rabbit food, and then the famous chefs got it, and then they made it delicious, and then it became this middle-class food. And kelp is just not that. It's something I think way more powerful. It can have a way bigger climate impact. And what we've adopted is a whole leaf strategy. One part of the plant is used for artisanal products like kelp mustards and pickles and stuff. The next part of the plant goes into the plant-based food sector, products like kelp mushroom burgers and other things in that plant diet sector. But then as you move down, there are all these other industries like fertilizer and biostimulants. Farmers have been using seaweeds as fertilizer for hundreds of years. Those nutrients from the oceans are so important in building healthy soil. There are incredible companies that are using kelp for bioplastics. And that's just amazing that someone like me, where there's a plastics issue in the ocean, that I can actually be growing a crop that replaces plastics.
With almost 8 million tons of plastic being thrown into our ocean each year, the use of seaweed as an alternative packaging is a clever solution, as is the potential for its use in land-based agriculture. Traditional farming on land involves almost 1.5 billion cattle globally, a major source of the powerful greenhouse gas methane. A study found adding just 1% of seaweed to the feed cows eat can decrease methane production by a mighty 58%.
People are coming to GreenWave to get into the solutions economy and really start tackling climate change. Our goal is to train 10,000 regenerative ocean farmers in the next 10 years. GreenWave works in 4 areas. 1, we have an online farmer training and support program with over 3,000 people on there learning to farm together. We have the Kelp Climate Fund, where we're actually subsidizing, paying farmers to plant kelp every year, and in return, they're using the MyKelp app to collect data to track climate benefits, environmental benefits on their farms. The third is market development. We're working up and down the supply chain with all different companies, entrepreneurs, to grow markets for kelp and to connect growers and buyers. And the last piece is infrastructure, where we're out helping farmers build hatcheries, dockside processing, so that farmers own part of the supply chain and get prices for their crops. We've put together the foundation to make sure that farmers are benefiting rather than being left behind.
According to the World Bank, farming seaweeds in just 1% of our ocean could create 50 million jobs. A mature 20-acre regenerative ocean farm is capable of producing $100,000 worth of products. GreenWave's model shows the potential for economic change at scale. And it's not only people that are able to benefit from regenerative ocean farming. Nature benefits too.
My 20 acres was a patch of desert, right? It was just mud. Everything had died from silt running in. And now it's an artificial reef. So you got seals, ducks, tons of fish, seahorses, all this sort of stuff that come in and hang out on the farm. As a fisherman turned ocean farmer, my job is to shift from depleting the ocean to breathe life back into our waters. And shellfish and seaweed do that. An oyster, for example, filters 50 gallons of water a day, pulling nitrogen out of the water column. Kelp soaks up to 20 times more carbon than land-based plants. We can grow all these restorative species that are rebuilding ocean ecosystems while putting people to work doing it. And the ocean returns to its core role of balancing the climate and becoming one of the main engines of mitigation. If you were to take 4% of U.S. waters and farm shellfish and seaweed, you could offset the entire agricultural emissions of the state of California and create the protein equivalent of 3 trillion cheeseburgers. So this is something that we can scale, that we can have major impact, that isn't just about small is beautiful, but is actually can sit squarely in this set of solutions to the climate crisis. Give people the power to be able to start their own solutions and be part of it and really have network production. That's what the future is, that network production, that hive mind where it's not about a few of us, but it's actually about everybody. Regenerative ocean farming matters at this moment in history because as our food system gets pushed out to sea, as the water crisis becomes more intense, there's hurricanes and droughts, we're going to need more food from our ocean. If we can have 10,000 people out there farming, doing hatcheries, doing new products, that's where really the hope comes from. This space where there's sort of an army of climate warriors out there that aren't activists, they're actually out there doing, building, and growing. If I was a young person again deciding what I wanted to do, the climate solution space is just like a beautiful, productive, exciting space to be in. Because it's not just ocean farming. The climate crisis is going to demand bundles of solutions. If there's any way you could go to work every day with people to solve this crisis, I think it's a life well spent.